Hi, everyone, and welcome to another speaking examiner session. You're very welcome. My name is Chris Pell, and I'll be taking you through this session. Let's give everyone a minute or so to get into the session, and then I'll explain what we're going to do and what you need to do to benefit from this class. Okay, so let's see who we have in already. Apologies in advance for messing up the pronunciation of any of your names. I'm sorry if I do that. Becca, Puneet, Anwar, Emmanuel, Tinder, Tun, Naina, Alka, Shilpi. Excellent. Priyanshu, sorry if I'm completely messing up the pronunciation of that. And hello to everybody saying hello. Okay. So let's give everyone just one more minute to get in, guys, and then I'll explain what we're going to do. So this is a class that will focus on speaking. It's a free class that we're doing, and we're going to focus on part 3 of the speaking test. So what I'll do is, first of all, I'll explain what part 3 is and give you a basic structure that you can use for most part 3 questions and explain what you should be focusing on in part 3. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how you can improve your speaking at home and understand what the examiners are thinking about, understand the marking criteria. Okay, so we've got 223 people watching live. So give it just 30 more seconds before I explain exactly what we're going to do today. And hello to everyone saying hello. Hopefully you can all hear me and see me and everything is working okay. I'll also be giving you guys the opportunity to join me live if you want, and I'll be asking participants questions and we can all listen to those people. So I'll give you a special link that you can use if you want to participate. It's totally optional, and I'll give you more information about that in a minute or two. Okay, guys, so we're going to focus on part 3 of the speaking test. So part 3 is very different from part 1. So part 1 of the speaking test, they're just going to ask you questions about you, normal everyday topics like what is your job, where do you live, tell me about your home, your likes and dislikes, and then they might ask you some weird questions like let's talk about hats or let's talk about mobile phones, but they will always ask about you. Whereas part 3 questions are more about abstract ideas. They're not so much asking you normal everyday questions about you. It's more a discussion of ideas. So they will take topics. So what topics are we going to use today? Let me see. So we're going to talk about meetings and international meetings today. So they're going to take that kind of an abstract topic and then ask you questions about that. And for part 3, the main difference between part 1 and part 3 in terms of your answer is you should develop your answer a lot more in part 3 than you will necessarily in part 1. And let me give you just a basic structure that you can use. There are lots of different ways that you can answer part 3 questions, and this structure, you don't have to use it for every question. In fact, I wouldn't recommend you use it for every single question. But if you get stuck and you need a little bit of a structure for part 3, what I would recommend doing is answer the question directly, then explain why you think that or why someone would think that, and then give an example or a personal story. And if you use that basic structure, then that means that you've answered the question and you have tried to develop your answer. You can also maybe choose the other side of the argument then, say, okay, but other people think this, explain why they think that, give an example or a personal story to help you exemplify that, and that will help you develop it even more. Don't have to use that for every question. In fact, there's some questions that you can just answer naturally, or there's some very specific questions that you won't use that structure with, but it works for most questions in part 3. Okay, so I'm going to invite some of you guys to come up, and then we can discuss, or I can ask you some questions and we will all give feedback. Before that, what you should do is get a piece of paper and a pen. All right. And I want you to write 5 letters on the piece of paper. So write F, C, P, G, and V. All right. So you can probably guess what these mean. All right. So F, so on a piece of paper like this, you might not be able to see it. F, C, P, G, V. So F stands for fluency. C stands for coherence. P stands for pronunciation. G stands for grammar, and V stands for vocabulary. All right. So why are we going to do this? Because these are the 5 things that the examiners are thinking about. And these are the only 5 things. The examiners don't care about body language. They don't care about facial expressions, eye contact, hand gestures, what clothes you're wearing, how you greet them. They only care about fluency, coherence, pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. But what do these things mean? So to give you a very brief overview of what these things mean. So fluency, was the person able to speak naturally about that topic without any unnatural pauses or hesitations? So not with 0 pauses or hesitations, because that is not possible, but without any unnatural pausing and hesitation. Coherence, did they answer the question that was asked or not? And did they develop their answer enough, especially for part 3? Pronunciation, there's a lot of things related to pronunciation, but for you guys, the main thing that you should focus on is clarity. Can the examiner understand 100% of what you were saying or not? Grammar, so listen to the different types of questions that I'm being asked and think about, did that person have a wide enough range of grammar to answer that particular question? Not use as many different tenses as possible in every single answer and throw in conditionals and throw in questions and throw in like all of these different things. It is like, if they ask you, what did you do last weekend? You're probably going to use the past simple. Like, do you know how to use that? Or if they say, what do you normally do on the weekend? You will be using present simple to talk about habits and things you normally do, not throwing in as many different grammar structures and tenses as possible. But for that particular question, did you have enough grammar to answer that question? And also for grammar, how many mistakes are you making? And are those mistakes serious mistakes, i.e., they cause problems for the listener? The listener doesn't understand what you mean because of those seriousness of those mistakes? Or were they just minor mistakes? It doesn't stop meaning coming through. And what was the frequency of those mistakes? And then finally, for vocabulary, think about the topic that is being asked, and did the person have enough vocabulary to discuss that topic? Not did the person memorize a bunch of big words and insert them into every answer, but did that person have topic-specific vocabulary that allowed them to easily discuss that topic? And then obviously, did the person make any vocabulary errors? So when you're listening to the people doing this, think about those 5 things within that context, and that is going to help you then understand your own performance. So what I would recommend doing after this session, get your phone. Everyone has, obviously, everyone has a phone that is watching this, I think, and everyone these days has the ability to record themselves. Get some part 3 questions, record yourself, and then listen back, and then think about these 5 letters: fluency, coherence, pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. And that will really help you understand what your weaknesses are, because a lot of people, especially when they're speaking, don't know that they are making errors. And a lot of people also have something called fossilized errors, which are errors that they make all the time without even realizing. This is especially true with like little grammar mistakes and things like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is invite some of you guys up. I'm going to post a link in the comments. If you want to speak, if you want to answer questions, click the link and I'll come up. You will answer the questions in front of everyone. There's probably about 500 people watching or something like that. So don't come up if you don't want any criticism. You don't want any critique of your work. We will say what the good things are, but we'll also give you feedback and tell you what the not so good things are. Also, please don't come up if your internet is very bad and we can't hear you because you keep cutting out, or you are in a very noisy environment. If you're in a very noisy place, I won't listen to you. I'll go to the next person because no one can hear what you're saying in a very noisy environment. Okay. Karen says, this is the guru that I told you about. I don't like being called a guru. Guru to me is a very negative thing. When I talk about IELTS gurus, it's normally people on the internet pretending to know about IELTS. Well, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a guru, but I know that in many countries that is a positive word. But here in the UK these days, guru is a way of kind of mocking or laughing at people who go on the internet and pretend to be experts. There's a lot of those fake gurus out there, especially in our industry, but not just our industry, many industries. But that's why we do these sessions, to try and show you, like, what do real examiners, what are the real examiner actually thinking about. So that is why when we're giving you feedback, we will not talk about things that the examiner does not care about, just what the examiner cares about. Okay, so I'm going to post the link now. If you want to come up. And if you have already spoken in the last couple of weeks, please don't click the link, because I want to talk to as many different people as possible. Kenny Chaw says, no, in my country, guru is a genius. Yeah, but we would use it in a very negative way. All right, and you have to have your camera on. You cannot, I will not pick you if you have your camera on or if you have a face mask on or anything like that, because it's easier if I can see your face and your lips. It's easier to understand your pronunciation. Okay. So let's pick the first person, which is, I'm sorry if I'm messing up the pronunciation of your name, Sherzad. Is it Sherzad? Am I pronouncing that correctly? It's easier if I can see your face and your lips. It's easier to understand the pronunciation.
Hello.
Okay. So Sherzad, you have a little bit of a problem with your microphone because there's a delay and there's a echo. So if you change your settings a little bit, maybe put in your headphones, and we'll come back to you. Anand, are you there?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm fine. Hope you're having a good day.
Excellent. Your microphone is not very good. Is it possible if you change your microphone to something else, and we'll come back to you? Okay. Let's go to Jaideep Singh. How are you?
Yeah, hi Chris. Good day.
How are you?
All well, doing well.
Excellent. Where are you calling from?
I'm from India, Punjab.
Oh, we've lots of students from the Punjab. You're very welcome. How's things there? Things are getting better in India now, I hope.
On the paper, I would say it's going better, but on the ground reality, it's still a very crucial time for India.
Okay.
It's
I hope the
complete
next
lockdown here as well.
Yeah, we've been on lockdown for like 5 or 6 months, so we're just coming out of it. So hopefully things get better for you guys soon. But
Yeah.
enough of depressing talk, and let's help you out as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is ask you some part 3 questions. And I'm not going to ask you all of the questions. I'm just going to ask you 2 part 3 questions. Is that okay?
All right.
and just answer them to the best of your ability. And then I will ask everyone watching to give you feedback. And then I will comment on the feedback. And that's going to help you, but also help the people giving feedback, because I'll tell them if their feedback is valid or not. And that'll help everyone. So everyone watching, please listen to Jaideep and give him as much positive feedback and things that he could do well as possible. All right. So let's start. Let me get my questions. So we're going to talk, Jaideep, first about having meetings. So the first question is, some people say that no one likes to go to meetings. Do you agree?
I totally disagree with the statement. Particularly, into my opinion, I disagree with the statement, because going into the meetings, that enhances one's self ability. You get to know, get across many more people in the market. You get a lot of interest. You get a lot of knowledge across. You have many more options to speak, like. I recently, due to the lockdown, I recently attended one of a meeting, trade winds meeting they were having yesterday on regard to shipping, the tanker market. So it was a great half an hour spent across. There were like many top delegates coming up and sharing their views about the market. So that way it enhances one's ability to listen, to have a day-to-day knowledge about the current scenarios, what's going on, and this way it helps us.
Okay, good.
So, yeah.
Do you think having meetings is the best way for companies to communicate information?
Yes, I would agree with the statement, because it basically this is the only part which actually helps people interact, because in an organization everyone is involved into day-to-day matters, and there's no time actually to have a chit chat or um, have any sharing. So when we are going in a meeting, we are having a hierarchy over there, and we have everyone involved, the juniors, the seniors. So a lot of interaction is being done, so that builds up a good relation among the organization. You also have a you also get an ability basically to speak in front, and that also encourages you and boost your internal spirit, and you are also being a part of a organization. So that way it enhances your personal interpersonal skills, I would say.
Okay, good, Jaideep. Very good.
Yeah,
So how did you feel about those questions?
these are good questions with the day-to-day market. So everyone should actually should definitely get involved into it. Like, if I am also having this one-on-one session with you, so it's a great experience.
How
One
did
should
you feel
definitely
about
experience.
good? How did
Sorry.
you feel about your answers?
Mm, not sure pretty much, because you are in front, so a better judge for me.
Is it what I
I
always like?
hope I agreed the state. I was like I tried sticking to the questions and
Mhm.
answering the question. So hope I did pretty good. Not sure. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, what I always like to do is ask this before I give feedback. Ask the students how they felt about their performance, because it helps to reflect on your own performance. Did you feel nervous, or do you think you gave your best performance, or do you think there were any improvements that you could have made?
Yes, actually, because it's the first time I am basically on a video
Yeah.
interaction.
It's weird. Yeah.
Generally I have conferences or interactions, but it's not a face-to-face interaction. So when you are into a face-to-face interaction, a little nervousness comes up. I think it's an obvious reason anyone would be having that. So Rest all across to you.
Okay, cool. So let me have a look to see what everyone is saying. So remember at the beginning, I asked you guys to write down 5 letters. And beside each of the letters, when you're doing your own performance or after when you're listening back, try to add in some information in there. But let's compare what an examiner would think with what people are actually saying. So let me see. Simran says, sounds, what does that mean? Let me see. Irrelevant, bro, off topic. I don't think it was off topic. I think he answered the questions. Let me see. Lots of pauses. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. There were hesitations and pauses, but we'll talk about why that was and try and help you out with that. Let me see. Supan says 4.5. No, it wouldn't be a 4.5. You can't give band scores for just 2 answers. It's impossible to do that. You need to give band score for the whole performance. Harpenter said lack of fluency. I think that yeah, that was one area that I think you can improve, and we'll help you with that area. Pronunciation problems. Remember that this is on the internet, and you know if you were in the same room, you would be able to hear each other a lot better than speaking into a microphone. So what the examiner would be thinking about would be, can I understand 100% of what the person is saying? I think if I was in the same room as Jaideep, I would understand 100%. And he didn't speak too quickly. He spoke very clearly, which was good. Ozada, his pronunciation is not clear to get easily. Yeah, remember that it's what the examiner is thinking, not what a English learner is thinking so much. So often you will have people who you cannot understand what they're saying because their pronunciation is poor. But then sometimes it is because the listener is not used to that accent, or the listener's listening skills are quite poor. So always bear that in mind. The Holy Spirit says, lack of eye contact. Eye contact is not assessed at all on the speaking test. The examiner does not care if you look up, you look at the floor, you look at them. It is not assessed at all. So that's a really good comment, because it shows that you guys might be worrying about things that are not really, you don't need to worry about them. Let me see. Ali, need grammar range. In what way? How could he have improved? Okay. So it's good feedback from Saeed. I think he did very well. He gave his answers in a clear way. The pauses he made did not seem the result of thinking of a word or translation, but more suitable words and in certain moments of his speech. Good. Smiling doesn't matter. Eye contact doesn't matter. So yeah, let me address this, because a lot of people are watching videos on YouTube, and I won't mention particular YouTube channels or things like this, but if you're watching videos on YouTube about IELTS, say, this is how to greet your examiner, or this is how to use eye contact to get a high score, or body language to get a high score, or hand gestures to get a high score. These people do not know what they are doing, because the examiner is not thinking about any of that. And if a teacher is teaching you those things, they're getting you to worry about things that you don't need to worry about. And they're not spending enough time on things that you do really need to worry about, such as fluency, coherence, grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. So always make sure that you understand the marking criteria. And then when you're listening to any teacher, including me, or watching any video, always put it through that filter of the marking criteria. And if someone is teaching you something that is not related to the marking criteria or misinterprets the marking criteria, then don't listen to them because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so let me see. So I think your main issue is your fluency. When you are pausing, when you're looking up and you're going, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about content, ideas, or are you thinking about vocabulary, or are you thinking about grammar, or what are you thinking about when you're doing that?
Well, actually, I was thinking about giving examples
Mm-hmm.
and structuring the format, basically.
Okay, so if you're worrying about structure, then in order to improve your fluency, you should practice using that structure until you don't even have to think about it. So what we do with our students on our VIP course is we give them step-by-step systems, but even our VIP students can't look at that step-by-step system and then the next day improve immediately. You need to practice using that system, and then you will go into the test and not even think about it. So let me give you an example of like learning how to drive a car. There is a system for driving a car. And when you first are learning to drive a car, you have to think consciously about everything. But when you drove your car today, Jaideep, did you think about driving it, or did you do it naturally?
Oh, it's pretty natural.
Yeah, you don't even think about it. You just change gears automatically. You change you check your mirrors automatically. You do everything, just use the pedals automatically, because you've done it so many times that it becomes natural to you. Same as riding a bike, tying your shoelaces. Difficult to begin with, but you've done it so many times that now you do it unconsciously. It's something called unconscious competence. You're good at something and you don't even think about it because you're so good at it. You are at the stage now of conscious competence where you're doing the right things, but you really have to think about them. And you want to practice that and get feedback until you're able to move to the next stage, which is unconscious competence, which is just doing it without even thinking about it. That will help you with your fluency if you're thinking about structure and all of those things. In terms of, you said you were trying to think of examples, you're trying to think of content. To help you improve your fluency, a really simple thing you can do is just pick things that are easy for you to talk about. On the speaking test, there are no extra marks for impressive ideas or high-level ideas. Nothing related to that. On the speaking test, it is when the examiner is thinking about your ideas and your content, it is this relevant? Does it actually answer the question, or is it irrelevant? So you could have the simplest ideas in the world and get a band 9. Or you could have the most complex, like PhD at Cambridge University level ideas and get a band 4. It is not about how complex your ideas are or how impressive your ideas are. It is about, because you're being judged on fluency, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and coherence. So pick ideas that are easy for you to talk about. So do you go to meetings in your job?
Yes.
So so I'm sure you could say, yesterday I had a meeting, and just talk naturally about that. And that would be easy for you to talk about. Does that make sense, Jaideep?
Yes, pretty agree with your statement.
Excellent. So coherence, you did a good job. You stuck to the questions, you answered them. One thing that you did a lot of was something that we call listing. So in part 3, let's say you get a question about meetings, and they say, what are the advantages of meetings? If a lot of students will say, here's one advantage, and here's a second one, and a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth one. You're just listing lots of things. It is better and much easier in part 3 to pick just one or two things and fully develop those things. So the benefit of meetings is you develop relationships with your colleagues. Explain why that is important, give an example of that. That makes it easier for you to talk about that, and it helps you develop your answer, which will help your fluency as well. I thought your pronunciation was fine. A lot of people from your part of India speak extremely quickly, and that causes some problems sometimes because it's difficult to understand everything that they're saying. You speak at a very nice pace, not too quick, not too slow, which is very, very good. So I think your pronunciation is fine. Grammar, you do have some issues with, you use the present continuous a lot when you should be using present simple. You're like, we are having this and we are doing this. Maybe listen back to your performance and think, when should I use present simple? When should I use past simple? When should I use present continuous? You're getting those mixed up from time to time. And also countable, uncountable nouns, you are getting those mixed up from time to time. So listen back to your performance, do some more practice tests, identify what your common grammar problems are, and then you can work on those. Vocabulary, you had lots of topic-specific vocabulary. I think that's one of the areas that you do that is a strength of yours. However, I did notice that you were searching for more advanced vocabulary at times, and that was lowering your fluency sometimes, because you're like, and then you would give a more advanced word, and then so there's a relationship between vocabulary and fluency. If you try to increase the complexity of your vocabulary, normally that reduces your fluency, because you're trying too hard to think about it. You're using all the processing power of your brain to try and think of that advanced vocabulary. So if you have a choice of speaking fluently and using simpler, correct vocabulary, or trying to use more complex vocabulary and that's lowering your fluency, I think getting a more balanced approach. And don't try to use vocabulary you don't feel 100% comfortable about. It's okay to do that during your preparation stage, because that helps you improve your vocabulary. But on test day, play it safe, try to minimize errors. And if you have a choice between a simple word that is correct or a complex word that is probably incorrect, choose the simple word. Okay, Jaideep?
Well understood.
Any questions?
One question, this thing I noticed actually in the first question, the listening. I was just listing up the things, and then I pick my mind that I need to focus on a particular one, and then I need to give an example. So there I noticed that thing. So would that be possible for you to share that what level I am at present, if you have to rate?
See, it's impossible to give someone a score by listening to just 2 part 3 answers. I do not do that, because it is not fair on the person, because just listening to 2 answers, that person could give a bad performance, and then I give them a low score, and then they feel very bad about it, and they think that they're very far away from their target. Or they could have a very good performance in just those 2 questions, and then they think that they're doing really well, and then they go and book the test and they fail. You should never follow any teacher who gives you band scores on sentences or one answer. The band score should always be on a whole performance, and it should be done under exam conditions, not while everybody is watching on the internet. Because people are normally they're more nervous, their fluency is not so good. Like, I believe band scores should be as accurate as possible, because it determines whether their decision to do the test or not. So I don't give band scores in these circumstances, I'm afraid. If you want that, we do have that on our VIP course. I don't think that we have any places available on that course at the moment, but if you want to send us an email our team will put you on the waiting list and discuss things with you. We do that on that course, but it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Okay, Jaideep?
Well understood.
Thank you, Jaideep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
So guys, hopefully you see the difference between the feedback that an expert teacher or an examiner would be thinking about, and the feedback that you guys are giving. Like and I know that this is my job. I'm a professional, and you guys are not IELTS experts. You're students, but the students who do best are the students that really understand the marking criteria, what the examiners are thinking about, because then they can give the examiners what they want on test day. And that is how we teach the exam, and that's why our students are very successful, and that's why we're doing these free sessions as well, to kind of help you guys understand. All right, so next, let's go to Corco. Are you there, Corco?
Hi.
Am I
Yes, I'm
pronouncing
here.
that correctly?
It's as good as it gets.
As good. Can you say it how you really say it?
Korku.
Corco. Okay, so it's a long vowel. Corco.
Yeah, the R is a little bit elongated.
Elongate. Okay, good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Accra, Ghana,
Ghana.
West Africa. Yes.
Wow. I've been to East Africa. I've been to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, but I've never been to Ghana, but I hear it's an amazing place. I'd like to go sometime. Okay.
Yes.
So are you ready for your questions, or do you have any questions for me before we start?
I'm ready for my question.
Excellent. Okay. So we're going to do part 3 questions, and we're going to continue on. We're going to talk about international meetings. Why do you think world leaders often have meetings together?
Okay. I personally, this is my opinion. World leaders have to come together to have these meetings or conferences. It normally is an annual thing, sometimes biannual. It is necessary because they need to bounce off ideas from each other, and you also need to have an interactions to find out what is happening in the local scenes. Then you can have a discussion of the solutions. Sometimes you can use these local solutions and extend them to the international scene or the global scene. So it is very important that this is done. For example, a famous one is the G20, which is supposed to be the economic powerhouses of the top 20 countries in the world. They annually meet and they discuss things ranging from security, in terms of global security, food sufficiency, international relationship. These are necessary to ensure that the economies of the world run together and run efficiently. So those are some of the ideas that has to do with international relations. It also is a time to also tackle pertinent issues such as new developments that will occur, because each day there is challenges that are coming up in the world that needs attention. So it is very important.
Excellent. Okay. So I think we have heard enough. That was a very well developed answer, so I don't need to ask you another question. So well done, Korku. So I always like to ask students before I give feedback, how do you feel about that question, about your performance? Do you think that was your best performance, or do you think you could have done a little bit better in some areas?
Well, I think naturally what I think I have is I want to improve upon the use of pauses. And initially, I think I was a bit nervous, which is anticipatory because it's a new setting you're starting. So there may be a little quaver in my voice at the beginning.
Yeah.
But as I went through, I realized that I began to stabilize, and then I became more fluent. But aside that, there may be other things that I may need to get a feedback from you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, because that is one of the reasons why the IELTS speaking test is broken up into part 1, part 2, part 3. You'll notice part 1 is they're very easy questions, like about you, because when people start the test, they feel a little bit nervous, and then they kind of get into a groove and they feel a lot better. And I think that would probably be something that would happen to you, where maybe the first question, or you would feel a little bit nervous. But I think if you and I were in a coffee shop as friends, just having a normal conversation, I think that your fluency would be fine. So during the one piece of advice that I would give you is, I know that it is a very high stakes test and you will be nervous, but try to speak to the examiner in the same way that you would speak to a friend. So imagine you and I were just talking about that topic in a coffee shop as friends. How would you speak to me about that? As that's going to help your fluency and will reduce nerves a little bit. And remember that it is not a academic test or anything like that. It is just a test of, can you speak clearly in English? Do you want to move to an English speaking country, Corku?
Yes, that's my intention.
Which one?
Canada.
Canada. So what the IELTS test is designed to do is, when you move to Canada, can you, when on your first day in your new job, speak to people, and can they understand you? That is what is a real test of. So always focus on clear communication. And one of the things that you can do to improve clear communication is speak to the examiner naturally in the same way that you would speak to your colleagues in work or friends. So let's have a look at the feedback that people were giving you. Storycal says, hats off to Corku. It's very good. Yes, I thought it was very good. Well done.
Thank you.
Aka says, needs to work on intonation. What score do you need, Corku?
Sincerely, I want something in 8.5. If I'm not asking for too much, but that's my intention.
But what is the minimum that you need? Is that because that helps you a lot, or what? Is there a minimum that you need in speaking?
I think a minimum should be 7.5.
7.5. Okay. So for this person says needs to work on intonation. For intonation, sentence stress, connected speech, you can get a 7 and not have a great command of those things. The main thing that you need to work on is the clarity of your pronunciation. You don't really need to work on intonation so much. Hazel says great vocabulary. I would really agree with Hazel. You have very, very good vocabulary. That was probably your strongest point. So well done. Unobtainable says, dude, that guy is amazing. So that's very good. Very good. Asina says his pronunciation was very understandable. I wouldn't say I understood 100% of what Corku was saying, but remember that this is on the internet. Corku is sitting in Ghana. I'm sitting in Ireland, and maybe the microphone is not the best. So we won't be. I don't like to be too harsh on people's pronunciation when I'm doing things on the internet. The Holy Spirit says, well done, Corku. Some pauses, but it was hard to understand pronunciation sometimes. I think that's quite accurate feedback. I think that would be the feedback that I would generally agree with, but we'll help you with that. Don't worry, we'll give you some advice on that. Okay, good feedback, guys. Well done. Thanks for. It's always good to be. One thing that I've noticed with students is that students are often much harsher than what a teacher would be or what an examiner would be. So thank you very much, guys, for being positive. Okay, so Fluency, I thought, was quite good. You didn't have a problem with trying to think of language or trying to think of content. There was no problem for you there. You did start, you were a little bit nervous at the beginning, but I think you eased into it. You got into a groove, which was good. And I think that should be something that you keep in mind when you do the test. Remember that the examiner will be judging you on your whole performance, not just on one answer. I think that I've seen this many times in where students will mess up one answer and then completely fall apart, and they'll be like, oh my god, I failed. And if you get one question, especially part 3, if you get one question that is really difficult and you don't think that you give a good answer, don't worry about it, because the examiner will keep asking you more difficult questions in part 3 if they think that you are a band 7, a band 8, band 9, because they need to stretch your ability as much as possible. So always give an answer, and don't worry if you think that your answer wasn't good enough, especially for part 3. Just always attempt the answer. Your pronunciation, again, I don't want to be too harsh, because I mean, we're speaking on microphones over the internet, but I didn't understand 100% of what you were saying. I don't know if I was in Ghana right now in your room listening to you, could I understand 100%? Also, you will be doing the test in Ghana, which is a good thing, because the examiners will be used to the Ghanaian accent, and that will be much easier for you. But what I would recommend is, let me give you a little thing that I use. On your mobile phone, do you have like Siri or some like or Google Assistant or something like that?
Yeah, I do have a Google Assistant.
Okay, so let me show you something. Hey Siri, what was the score in the Liverpool match last night?
Liverpool beat Manchester United 4-2 in the Northwest Derby yesterday.
Okay, let's try that again, but I'll mess up the pronunciation a little bit. Hey Siri, what was the score in the Liverpool match last night?
Liverpool
Oh, it knows. it actually got that. But maybe because I did it before. But what I've noticed is with it's called speech to text. There's a lot of speech to text things, and people with pronunciation problems, what it will do is it will often write out the text from your speech. So the words that it understands, it will write out correctly, and the words that it does not understand, it will jumble them up or write a wrong word. That will enable you to know, okay, maybe this word, I need to improve the pronunciation. And then go to, if you Google IELTS pronunciation guide, you'll get a free guide from our website. So, or if you go to IELTSadvantage.com, you'll see it below here, and go to the pronunciation section. There is a free pronunciation guide there that will give you some free tools and that will help you check your pronunciation. And the main thing that you should focus on is clarity. Does the examiner understand 100% of what I'm saying? Grammar was fine. You had a nice range of grammar. Coherence was very good. You developed your answer well, and vocabulary was excellent. I think that you have enough vocabulary to get the score that you need, but don't try and push that too far by trying to use words you don't understand or that aren't appropriate to use. So yeah, I don't want to be too harsh on the pronunciation issue, but overall it was very, very good, Corco. So well done. Any questions for me? Anything I can do to help you?
Well, thank you very much. I've been trying to join the course, but unfortunately, I've not been able to do that. But what you did say about the examiners not looking out for either appearance or hand gestures, was something that I just learned. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
one of the things that was. I
Yeah.
thought it was a requirement, but
I mean,
it's
I
good to be
saw a
expressed.
school in Nigeria, not too far away from you, and they were teaching students what clothes to wear. like Jesus Christ, like, you know, if I might, not to criticize other schools or other teachers, but I mean, if you are spending a lesson teaching students about what clothes to wear, how to greet the examiner, hand gestures, eye contact, body language, you are not giving students enough time on pronunciation, fluency, grammar, vocabulary, the things that the examiners are really, really focusing on. So yeah, really, I think your performance, the best way I could describe it is, imagine you have a car and you have a really nice car, like you have a really nice like Toyota SUV, a brand new one, but it's just got one flat tire. All right. So the you need to fix that tire in order to drive anywhere. The rest of it is very good, but that flat tire is the way. That's how we teach speaking. Is we identify your main weaknesses and then help you fix those main weaknesses. So for you, I think the only thing that might cause a problem could be the pronunciation issue. So I would really just focus in on that, because imagine if you had a new Toyota SUV and you had a flat tire, and then the mechanic comes out and tells you, well, you need to fix the engine and you need a new door, and you know, and that, like, you like, you don't need to do any of those things, you know. So always focus on the things that need fixed and focus on what matters. Okay, thank you very much, Porco.
All right, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And if you need any help in the future, send me an email and we'll help you out with anything you need. And hopefully everything is good where you are.
Thank you.
Hopefully someday you make it to Canada. If you do, let us know and we'll send you.
Definitely.
All right,
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys. So we only have 9 minutes left, so that won't be enough time to bring someone on and give them feedback. Apologies to the people who we didn't speak to, but I'm doing this for free. Normally, I charge hundreds of dollars for a one-on-one speaking test, so apologies that I can't help you out. Thank you very much, guys. To the people who didn't make it on, I apologize. And to the people who I didn't answer their questions, but one thing to just take from this is, or two things to take from this is, number one, understand the marking criteria and focus on that. And number two, understand what your individual weaknesses are in relation to the marking criteria. So is that fluency? Is that grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation? What particular weaknesses do you have? And then really work on those. If you want us to help you with that, we have a free option and then we have a more expensive option. Well, it's not free, so it's obviously more expensive than free. IELTS Advantage is our free website. You can go on there and get lots of free help, free courses, and it's self-study. And you can go on there and get help. If you want to work with us on our VIP course, you can join the waiting list. There's a waiting list to join the VIP course. You can join it on IELTSadvantage.com, or you can email us and our course advisors will get you on the waiting list, but they will talk to you about your needs and match you up with the best course if you want that. So if you want help for free, go here. If you want to talk to us about becoming a VIP, send us an email and we will help you out. Thank you very much, guys. Apologies, I can't give you more of my time, but I have a team to look after and my students to look after, and a little baby upstairs to look after as well. So thank you very much and see you again.